emhlabeni sibuthwele ubunzima, sibuthwele ubunzima bawo Thixo somandla. Emhlabeni sibuthwele ubunzima, sibuthwele ubunzima bawo Thixo somandla.
Hello everybody, my name is Zinthle. I am currently in IB2 and I am from Zimbabwe. In January of 2020, the coronavirus outbreak was declared a global health emergency by the Director General of the World Health Organization, and thus began the new dawn of COVID-19. The world as we knew it, for many of us, came to a standstill. There were a lot of shared feelings of fear and uncertainty about an unforeseeable future. 2020 proved to be a year of reflection. For some, it was a year of change, a year of gaining new perspective, a year of slowing down. But for far too many people, 2020 brought about a great deal of pain and loss. I would like us to take a moment of silence and remember all the lives that were lost in 2020. We felt it necessary to document the experiences of some of the individuals in our very own Waterford community.
I'm Coco, I'm in IB2, and I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo. The question I will be answering is, how has the pandemic changed your perspective of the world? So the first thing that comes to mind for me is that it's shown me how quickly the world can change. Just because this change, this pandemic, being in lockdown, it really happened overnight, and usually for me the way I understood change was that it was a gradual thing that happens, and again literally everything changed overnight for all of us. And I think also with that it relates to how quickly we are able to adapt to change when it comes to us. I think it took us quite long, me personally as well as just a lot of people, and on like from a national perspective, it took us quite long to adapt to the virus and to set up the necessary precautions that we needed to take. And I think that was the first thing for me. The second thing is it showed me how important community is to an individual, not just in the sense of like family and friends, but I think also with like strangers that you interact with in any aspect of your life, whether it be at the grocery store, at the bank, at the hospital. Those strangers have such a big and important role on your health, and I think that's something that I have learned from this pandemic, is that even those people that you overlook will play an important role in your life. So I think that's one thing that I was not prepared for, and that's one thing that I've definitely learned from this. The last thing I think is that it's shown us the competence and how much trust we have in our governments because of their ability to act and react to the pandemic, whether they did so effectively or ineffectively. I think it's really shown us, and it's highlighted the flaws and the strengths in each of our governments, and it's shown where we can put our trust and where we shouldn't, and the things that we need to work on and to improve as our individual nations. So yeah, that's how the pandemic has changed my perspective of the world.
And I feel like the biggest perspective that changed for me was the people around me. I realized there are some people that I would keep in touch with even if I haven't seen them in weeks or months now, which shows that, you know, they're my real friends, and then there were some that I lost touch with. So I feel like it gave me a clearer understanding of who I should keep around me as a person.
Hi. How COVID-19 changed my perspective last year is that it really forced me to look into myself. I felt like it was a selfish year. Not selfish in a bad way, but I think before COVID, it was about trying to keep busy, do as many activities as I could, be good at it, and, just keep on moving, be that girl. But the world literally came to a stop. We were in isolation, quarantine for the whole year basically, and it really just forced me to think, okay, well, in the chaos, what makes me happy, what keeps me going? And yeah, it's just been working at myself, which may sound cliche or what a lot of people are saying, but truth be told, that's what it was, because with a lot of things lost, you still have one thing, and that's yourself and improving yourself. So yeah.
Okay. One thing the pandemic taught me is that we need to start making more time to do the things that we love and the things that make us happy. Because while we did have the time, we were all consumed with our lives, with trying to get something done, with trying to meet a deadline, with trying to do some of the mundane things that, we do on a day-to-day basis. But we rarely ever took time to, just enjoy it and to appreciate the time that we have with our loved ones or with your friends. I haven't seen my friends in a year. And that's the kind of thing I've been thinking about. The pandemic taught me that I need to value time to myself and time to do the things that I enjoy doing.
My name's Eva. I'm an IB1 at WK, and through this pandemic, my perspective of myself changed in a way where I was more grateful towards other people and the activities that I was able to do before that I wasn't able to do anymore because of COVID. And I also started to find myself more, the things that I like to wear, the music I like to listen to, and I also started to become more open-minded and self-aware, as well as more aware about the things that are happening around me.
What the COVID-19 pandemic has taught me was to sort of find the silver lining in everything, because although no one really wanted to be in a global pandemic, I feel like sitting and thinking about all the things that you could have been doing, going out and everything, it kind of does feel taxing towards you. So rather even just being thankful for one small thing, I feel like it does make you better. So it kind of taught me to be more positive in a way. And it also did teach me that although everyone is isolated and everyone's at home, that everyone is going through the same thing. So even though you feel alone most of the time, people do understand what you're going through, and people are much more understanding than you think that they are. And it can bring people closer together because you realize that you can relate on a lot more, and you kind of do have that time to first of all sit and reflect on yourself, but also to kind of connect with other people even though you're far away.
Before the pandemic, I very much enjoyed planning everything I wanted to do with my time, from the day to the week to the month and sometimes to the year. And because COVID came as such a shock to the world, it forced us to live in uncertain times, ranging from not knowing when we'll be back on campus to not knowing whether or not I'll be writing physical exams. And so I think it changed my perspective in a way that it forced me to be okay with not knowing exactly how things are gonna go. It forced me to be okay with the fact that I can't know everything. And I think it's a beautiful thing, because now as humans, we've been forced to go a little slower and adapt to a new normal. So I think it's definitely changed my perspective, because I was honestly going way too fast before COVID-19. So it really helped me live in the moment.
I think COVID has made me see the world as more fragile, but also as a lot more compassionate. I think the pandemic has forced people to look after each other in some sense and to be kind to one another, especially those who are suffering or who have lost loved ones. I think it's taught me how much I take for granted social interactions and spending time with friends and family. So I think that's definitely something I value a lot.
Hi, my name is Matthew. I was born in, raised in, and currently live in the Philippines, and here is how the COVID-19 pandemic has personally affected me. I'd like to start by saying that our government is pretty incompetent. So because of their inability to solve this pandemic without a vaccine. We have been placed under quarantine ever since March, so I could count with two hands the amount of times that I've left my home. And obviously, that brings about some impacts in my life, and here are some of them. For one, I think my mental health has been affected by this prolonged quarantine. I think that my relationship with my family has also been affected. Being in quarantine with the same few people for almost a year has definitely impacted not only the way that we interact with one another, but also the way that we perceive each other. And I think that's very clear in the small things like eating dinner together or any kind of conversation. There's always tension, and that could also be a result of all of our mental health being at a deteriorated state. My mental health has also been impacted by the fact that I could not meet with my friends and pull through with plans that I've had before the pandemic started. Plans like debate tournaments, hangouts, road trips, and even something as simple as meeting my friends and having someone to hug or someone's shoulder to cry on. The lack of these things has affected me personally very heavily. I would also say that our family has been financially affected by COVID 19, brought about by the economic recession that came along with this pandemic. So, not only are we struggling financially, but we are also struggling with our family dynamic. And at some points, I've also struggled to find my sense of home here in my house. Fortunately, though, I would say that none of us have been affected by the virus itself. No one in my immediate family or extended family. I would say that personally, this pandemic has helped me grow in the sense that I appreciate things more in life now. I now appreciate my friends much more and the presence of my friends. I now appreciate breaks. I now appreciate taking breaks from people and not talking to the same people every day. And I now appreciate the little things in life. Things like small hangouts, having lunch together, all the things that I've been deprived of by this pandemic, which all happen to be things that we tend to ignore in life, are now things that I appreciate more. And that's something I have to acknowledge as a way that I've grown. But other than that, I don't think that the COVID 19 pandemic has impacted me in any other ways. But it still is a pretty negative experience, and it could be much better. So I'm looking forward to meeting everyone on campus and making this year a really fun, really happy year. Thanks.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all, students at Waterford Kamhlaba, for giving me this opportunity, and also to the Advancement Office for supporting the initiative. Thanks a lot. At the beginning of the lockdown, there must have been a sense of fear, of longing, boredom, and even loss. However, what I saw at Waterford Kamhlaba was a presence, a strong student presence, messaging, uploading songs and poems and recitals, focus groups around important issues of inclusion and exclusion, gender and its multiple forms of expression, and race, comments and thoughts about how this plays out in our institution. Music, dance, and a connection to the outside environment became more visible in the world and at Waterford Kamhlaba. Africa Week was one such fantastic example of your creativity and spontaneity and passion. Across the continent of Africa, individuals and groups of young people are speaking up and speaking out with others around the world. When we're young, we live in our present future. Our spaces now and our future are within 5 or 10 minutes. There's little past we can refer back to or look back on with nostalgia or dread. As we grow and become adults, there's so much we have already achieved, and hopefully there's an enormous passion within for an exhilarating unknown. Then a pandemic creeps into our lives and takes over in ways as never experienced before. No one has. And from one day to the next, our life as we know it has changed. You asked me about validation. Of course your passions are validated, and moreover, examined, supported, and encouraged wherever these point towards a positive contribution to yourselves and to others. We older adults cannot create solutions for you. We do not have the answers. Together we can work towards that. And the momentarily arrested future. There's loss, I'm sure, but there are important opportunities to think and be with others. And we must take note, ask questions of you. What is this future you're creating and how can we serve? I believe that it's only through knowledge and understanding that we can really make transformative changes and have the choices in order to make them. As an incoming UWC head, I want to be able to support those transformative choices that we all make together. What this pandemic has revealed very clearly to me is that nothing stands still. Even when there are no domestic flights in the air, the schools and library buildings are closed, the roads and cities become vacant. In some places, people, countries, whole communities and continents shut down and turn inwards. But at the same time, young people all over the world are connecting in their virtual schools, neighborhood communities, families and friends. You seem to have found a new and different strength, courage and bravery. I want to be able to support this and engage in the dialogue, listen carefully and act with integrity with you. Within this dialogue, we can advise each other. We can all get to a better place. There's much to do, and this is the time we have. Thank you.